Hello all and welcome to my channel. If you are new here, please subscribe, share and like our videos. Here is an emotional story of how a housemaid ended up marrying her boss and becoming the madam of the house. Relax and enjoy the story. Ada was a young woman from a small village in Nigeria. She came from a poor family and had little education, but she was hardworking and eager to support herself. When she was 18 years old, Ada decided to move to the city of Lagos to find work as a housemaid. She was hired by a wealthy businessman named Chuka and his wife Biola. They lived in a big house in the upscale neighborhood of Victoria Island. Ada was excited to start this new job. She hoped it would give her a chance to earn good money to help her family back home. At first, things went smoothly. Ada worked very hard cleaning the big house, cooking meals, and taking care of the laundry and other chores. Chuka was usually busy with work and traveled often, but Biola closely supervised all of Ada's tasks. After a few months, Biola began finding fault with Ada's work. She would inspect the house and complain if she found even a tiny speck of dust. She scolded Ada harshly for minor mistakes in ironing clothes or preparing food. Biola also made Ada work long hours without breaks. Often Ada had to continue scrubbing floors or washing dishes late into the night even when she felt exhausted. Chuka noticed Ada looked skinnier and more tired lately. He asked Biola to make sure Ada got proper rest and food. But while he was away, Biola only increased her demands on Ada. She would lock up the leftovers so Ada couldn't eat them. She cut back her portions at mealtimes. Biola even began slapping or kicking Ada when angered by her work. Still, Ada did not complain to Chuka since she needed this job. One Sunday afternoon when Chuka was home, he heard cries coming from the kitchen. He found Biola beating Ada for not having lunch ready on time. Shocked at his wife's cruelty, Chuka immediately told Biola to stop. He warned if she mistreated Ada again, he would make her regret it. Chuka also apologized to Ada and treated her injuries. After that incident, life improved for Ada in the big house. With Chuka keeping an eye out for her, Biola did not physically abuse her anymore. However, she still constantly berated Ada and tried to make her miserable in small ways. Biola watched her every move like a hawk. Ada had no privacy or friends. She felt so lonely missing her family back in the village. The only comfort she found was in prayer. Ada began attending Sunday Mass at a nearby church when she could. She also snuck in short daily prayer sessions begging God to ease her burdens. In the second year of Ada's employment, Biola gave birth to her third child, a daughter, not the son Chuka desperately hoped for as his heir. Chuka had two daughters already with Biola but no male child. This had become a source of rising tension between the couple. After Biola delivered their third girl, Chuka became cold and distant from her. Meanwhile, Ada prayed her own fervent prayers. In her isolation and unhappiness working for Biola, Ada found herself drawn to the idea of bearing Chuka's son herself, even though she knew as his housemaid that was impossible. When Biola's youngest turned 1 year old, Chuka announced he was taking a second wife. He planned to marry Ada. Stunned by her husband's decision, Biola broke down and wept bitterly. But Chuka's mind was made up. He saw kind-hearted, hard-working Ada as the answer to having a son to inherit his business empire. Chuka also decided marrying Ada would reward her for enduring 2 years of mistreatment from Biola. So at 20 years old with little formal education, Ada became the second wife to successful businessman Chuka and joined the upper crust of Lagos high society. Ada gave birth to a healthy baby boy just 9 months after the wedding. Finally Chuka had a male heir to carry on his name and fortune. He was overjoyed and doted on both Ada and their precious infant son. As Ada settled contentedly into her luxurious new life, she prayed daily to never forget her humble beginnings. She vowed to raise her son with good values and respect for all people regardless of background. Ada also persuaded Chuka to provide better wages and conditions for their household staff so they too could live decent lives despite their limited options. Now it was Biola's turn to cope with misery and jealousy as Chuka paraded Ada around proudly at elite social events. Ada wore elegant designer outfits and expensive jewelry. Meanwhile, Biola's bitterness ate away at her from the inside out. She spent sleepless nights plotting some way to get back at her husband and co-wife. Opportunity arose when Ada sponsored her younger sister Comfort to also come work in their household. Ada hoped to lift her family out of poverty in the village just as Chuka had rescued her. Bright, diligent Comfort quickly learned cooking and cleaning tasks. She looked up to Ada as a mentor and friend during her lonely first months in Lagos far from their parents. When Biola noticed Comfort seeking Ada's guidance, she devised a malicious scheme. Biola began secretly meeting Comfort and manipulated her to divulge private details about Chuka and Ada's relationship. Then Biola used the information to create rifts between the couple. When Chuka found inconsistencies in details Ada told him, Biola hinted Comfort knew something but refused to tell all. She said Comfort perhaps hoped to also catch Chuka's eye herself just as Ada had leapt from housemaid to madam. Alarmed his second wife might be keeping secrets that could threaten his family's stability, Chuka commanded Comfort be returned to their home village immediately. Ada was distraught saying her sister was innocent, being tricked by Biola's cruelty. But Chuka refused to listen. He had Comfort swiftly escorted away when Ada was out shopping one afternoon. Only after Comfort was gone did Ada finally break down and tell Chuka the full tale of abuse she endured under Biola for those first 2 years. Sobbing, Ada described the starvation, beatings, bruises and loneliness she survived only by praying nightly for God's help not to give up in despair. Now she feared poor Comfort might suffer a similar fate back with their struggling parents who needed the extra income she could earn. Ada begged Chuka to have mercy and at least send Comfort to school or provide some financial assistance to their family. Chuka was horrified and heartbroken realizing the depth of suffering Ada experienced right beneath his own roof. That night he confronted Biola and threw her out of their luxurious matrimonial home. Chuka warned she would get no divorce settlement and was cut off from his financial assets. Biola wailed furiously but her pleas fell on deaf ears. For the first time, Chuka recognized Biola's selfishness and capacity for evil. He would no longer be manipulated by her for the sake of their daughters. Finally rid of Biola's toxic presence, peace returned to Chuka's home with Ada. She eventually gave birth to 3 more robust sons in just 5 years. Meanwhile, Chuka made Ada head administrator over his extensive household staff. She implemented much better employment policies and took special interest in mentoring younger maids. Although still haunted by regrets over Comfort, Ada found inspiration in overseeing empowerment of other disadvantaged women and girls. She sponsored training programs to improve their job skills and self-confidence. Ada also convinced Chuka to construct decent low-cost housing for their lowest-paid workers near the opulent family compound. Over time, Ada's humility, compassion and devotion to her family also sparked genuine transformation in Chuka. He grew more attentive and loving not just as a husband, but as a father to all his children. Chuka even funded educational scholarships for hundreds of impoverished but talented youth like Ada once was. And he welcomed Comfort back to work again when she finished nursing school many years later, now completely immune to any manipulation by bitter Biola gossiping around town. In the twilight decades of their lives, with professional successors running the family empire, Chuka and Ada founded a charitable foundation in their name. It supported healthcare clinics, vocational training programs and microfinance groups assisting poor women in rural villages much like Ada's hometown. Although she never forgot her days as a mistreated housemaid, Ada channeled the privilege and influence she gained as Chuka's wife into providing hope for the next generation of women rising up behind her. Ada's courage and perseverance in overcoming hardship made her story an inspiration to many. The ripple effects of Ada's compassionate leadership with Chuka's funding and support touched entire communities over the years. So that is the story of Ada's remarkable journey from impoverished maid to wealthy influential madam. With tenacity and spiritual faith during her times of trouble, she endured abusive working conditions before finding love, motherhood and unexpected social status through marriage to her boss Chuka. In the end Ada triumphed over the cruelty of her tormentor Biola too. Ada proved that even for poor, oppressed women starting out in life, redemption and personal reinvention are possible when one keeps fighting for better life circumstances linked to helping others still struggling on that upward path too. Though she passed away many years before Chuka in her late 70s, Ada left an honorable legacy of breaking cycles of poverty and powerlessness for countless females following in the footsteps of her bold, purpose-driven life.